LGBTQ 1 Minute News. Let's queer up trans rights. Tennessee GOP candidate calls for executions of parents of trans kids. A Tennessee Republican running for governor is facing national outrage. Monty Fritts openly called for the execution of the parents of transgender children and doctors providing gender-affirming care. On a Christian Nationalist podcast, Fritts said, quote, "I think we need a law in Tennessee that would allow for capital punishment. I think that anyone who would try to disfigure a child through hormones or surgery, you might be eligible for capital punishment," end quote. The comments come as the United States debates trans rights following a U.S. Supreme Court ruling upholding Tennessee's care ban. You know, this gentleman, and just the fact that he even calls himself part of a reputable religious organization and then in the same breath hopes death on someone.
Literally.
Is like why religion scares the hell out of a lot of LGBTQ plus people. I mean, this is pure disgusting.
So this past weekend, I was able to spend some time with the parents of PFLAG. And they are parents of LGBT members. And this was actually one of the topics that they were super scared about. They're like, what if this law in Tennessee comes down to Florida? Like, how can I support my child publicly or privately without like the fear of me getting executed because of who they are, and because of basically protecting my child? And it's crazy to think, because you start one place and these MAGA folks will spread it. Like
well, and when you mention Tennessee or Texas, you mention Florida in that same breath. So of course they're worried about that. How could they not? And that's why parents of many trans kids have moved. And that's without having the money to do so. That is, we're moving somewhere and staying on somebody's couch because we have no other ways. But I want my kid to get his or her gender affirming care, and I'm going to support that. You know, I want my kid to live. My kid tells me they want to die otherwise. What am I going to do? I'm leaving.
Well, it's surprising how everything ties together. You know, we read time and time again that LGBTQ plus children are more likely to suffer mental illness. They are more likely to commit suicide. They're more likely. Well, if you don't believe that you have a future, if you don't believe that anybody cares whether you live or die, you are going to be more likely to want to end it because you think you're doing yourself and your family a favor. If you are celebrated at home, you are more likely to want to live because you believe in the future. You believe that you have a purpose on this planet. So it's not that our children are more likely to do those things. It's that is the direction that they are being railroaded in, and that has to stop, and it has to stop with our community, and it has to happen but through our insistence that other people pay attention.
Through our demand.
Absolutely, that they must pay attention. These are human beings, and my work has focused largely on the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and human rights integration. And this is an absolute, not only a violation of human rights, but the absence of human rights. We can't even begin to offend something if it doesn't exist. And human rights right now, certainly across these platforms, does not even exist.
Yeah, especially for kids, you know, like I could always think about.
And their parents.
And their parents. Like, you know, I think about being a queer kid in a Latino household, right? If you ask my brothers how our childhood was, they have a different story than I do, right? But I was a queer kid hiding who I was because I didn't want to disrupt the house, right?
And you didn't want to get thrown out of your house.
I didn't want to get thrown out. But because of those reasons, you think about ending your life.
Absolutely.
Now imagine being a trans child when you're turning on the TV and they're saying they hate you. You know what I mean? Like the TV didn't tell me I hated myself, right? For being different.
And now I know everybody else. Right. Now I know everybody else hates me too.
God. Wow. Well, folks, that is an LGBTQ 1 Minute News that was a lot more than 1 minute because it needed to be. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by sharing them and subscribing to Queer News Tonight.